So now let us look at some of the specific objections that you may face on a weekly or monthly basis. And these are the most common ones that we see happen. So you've got pricing, which is really obvious, right? That's one of the first questions people will ask, and it's one of the objections that people will throw at you. We've got time, as in, I don't think I have enough time to do the thing, or the time slots that you have don't work for me. You've got COWS here, which actually stands for something. It means cannot operate without spouse. So that is that they need to check with somebody else. It could be a partner, could be a friend that they're going to maybe train with. Basically that they can't make the decision on their own, they need to check with somebody else. We've got think about it, which is a really tough one to overcome because it's not really giving you an answer. It's more like an inaction response. And then you've got the commitment, or the length of time that they need to commit to get started. So these are some of the common objections you'll face. Now, there's ways to deal with all of them, and I'd encourage you to understand that the first thing to do is always, always go back to the emotion and the connection that you've started with. So when somebody says the issue is price, go back and try and re-justify the price in terms of their feeling and what they want to get out of the service, not purely cut the price down, right? Because really, if you went back and said, well, look, Chris, when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that if you were to lose 5 kilos, you would feel 10 out of 10 and it would be the happiest you've ever been in your life. Do you think that's worth $50 a week? When you go back and you really sort of reframe that, it starts to make sense, because Chris might be spending $50 a week on coffees. Well, why doesn't he invest it in his health? So again, price, you don't need to go back directly to the price. You need to first go back to the emotion on why. So why are they here? What's the purpose behind them being here? Then, if that doesn't work, move to what I call ridiculous, I don't spell that right, reduction. So again, we still don't touch the price, but we break it down to maybe a day rate. So if you were to charge, say, $70 a week, well then per day, that's $10 a day. So do you think that your health, your wellness is worth $10 a day? Sounds like a lot when it's $70 a week maybe, but when you say $10 a day, people start to understand that they might spend $10 a day on parking, but yet they won't spend $10 a day on themselves and their health. So when you start to make that really logical, they start to really understand. And then look, if those things don't help and if they don't really work, you can always look at offering a lower use package that is maybe less expensive, or different programs that might be more feasible for them to start on. But certainly, I would encourage you to try a couple of times before you go to this pricing reduction piece. I'd say that you should probably have maybe a 10% leeway on prices as well, so that maybe at a manager's discretion, you could, in theory, help somebody get started if that was the only thing that was stopping them. Okay, so we've looked at price, now the other one is time. And again, time for some people could be time that they have available, time that they have free, or it could be the amount of time that they're willing to spend on themselves. Now, a lot of this will be basically reframing the time that they're using and seeing where they have, I suppose, time leaks. So are they saying that they don't have enough time to join or to come to a class, but yet they've finished the game Candy Crush, or they've watched the whole season of Game of Thrones? Well, then they do have time, they're just spending their time maybe in different ways, and it's about us helping them understand where they're using their time. Maybe do a time audit with them and see, can we kind of build out a calendar that will support their journey, and then we can start to show them that actually they do have time. You could also, again, if we talk this ridiculous reduction, you could say that, look, we're asking you to commit to 3 hours a week, 3 classes a week that are 1 hour each. Well, how many hours do we have in a week? And what percentage is 3 hours of our weekly hours? It's quite a small amount, right? So are you willing to give that much time to your health? Again, really clever way to view this. The next one here is COWS, so cannot operate without spouse. And that is relating to the person who wants to get started needing to check with somebody else. Now in this scenario, it's really important that we find out early if the person that they're referring to supports them in their journey. So does your husband or wife support you? Are they supportive of you in your health journey? If so, fantastic. Why would we need to check in with them if they're very supportive, right? So it's about getting that support early on and making sure that we pre-frame that support so that at the end, if the person says, I need to check with my husband or wife, we'll say, but we just mentioned your husband or wife is super supportive, so I think it's going to be sweet. I think it's going to be all good. So let's get it moving. And then what we can do is then offer a referral VIP card for the husband, the wife, the friend, the dog, the cat, whoever it is. We can give them some access so they can also come in and check out the facility. And that's going to really help get the person moving. The next one, think about it. So this is quite a tricky one because this can really mean a lot of these different things here. But people will say they need to think about it as a way to kind of stall the process. Really simple answer to this one. And it's just about being upfront. And I would simply say, I'd look the person in the eye and I'd say, just so I can help better, what exactly do you need to think about? And I'd let the dust settle and I'd let the silence kick in. And the person might then move to one of these. So think about it, actually might mean I can't afford it. It actually might mean I don't care enough to use it. It might mean many things, but we need to find out exactly what it means. So simply put here, clarify, find out what it is. What exactly do they need to think about, and ask that particular question. And then the last one that you'll commonly see is commitment. So it might be, I can't commit because I'm nervous that I won't use it. It might be the contract is too long. It might be multiple reasons, but they'll talk about commitment. Maybe the last time they tried something, they didn't really come full circle and finish it. Well, this to me is kind of motivation, and we need to dive back into that. We don't need to reduce our contract length. We need to inspire the person to be motivated to take action. So go back to motivation. So what are you worried about? What are you scared of? What are you fearful of when you're saying commitment? Because you mentioned you want to lose maybe 20 kilos. Well, that's not going to happen in a week. That's going to take at least a year for some people, right? So if we agree that you want to get to a certain goal and we've looked at a timeline, well, there's no need to fear the commitment. And ironically, for some people, having a membership term can actually be a sales positive, because we could phrase it and say, look, for some people, being locked in for 12 months is definitely a commitment. So they have to show up and they're forced to use it. So you could even frame it in that light as well. But I would always encourage going back to the motivation first and really dialing in on that. So these are your common objections: price, time, cows, think about it, and commitment. They all ultimately are just a stopgap from the person to get started. So we just need to ask difficult questions. We need to maybe become a bit more uncomfortable for a moment to help the person in the long run.